Looks like it has sound. It's working. It's working. Okay, beautiful. So we are here with Amber Stott from Food Literacy Center. Thanks so much for joining us. It is going to be an awesome interview. I have to tell a little story before I get into this, okay? The first time I saw Amber Stott speak was at Sacramento, at the Sacramento Public Library, and she was hosting a Sacramento Food Film Festival event. And I believe it was about, I know it was about the dearth of the American independent farmer, right? You know, the average age of the American farmer is you know, up in the 60s, I believe it was, and a lot of people don't know that. And anyway, long story short, you're up there hosting, and at the time I was just kind of breaking into this, you know, getting out of the kitchens and being more of this food advocate guy and really trying not to cook so much, but to talk about it, you know, that kind of thing. And I saw you up there and it was just like, you know, everything else stopped. I'm looking at this gal. You're just nailing all of these points that I'm just burning in my mind. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, she is awesome. Who is this gal? You know, it was like, you know, I'm hearing like, ooh, dream weaver, you know, everything stopped, you know? And so I go home and I look you up, right? And, you know, just professional interest. I want to see where you're coming from and what you're doing and everything. And I found out that you're just this like force of nature in Sacramento. And I just had no idea about you. And so I want to warn everybody out there that's watching, there is going to be a ton of fawning praise for the great Amber Stott today. Okay?
Well, I mean, to start from there, Dave, I think, you know, I'm just like you. I'm just super passionate about this stuff. But I also have one other element that burns inside me, which is it makes me mad. I get real mad about the inequities of our food system, how it benefits some Americans more than others. And so for me, that fire in the belly just causes me to get myself out there to do just what you're talking about, talk about it. Create action, train others, you know, build an army, because until everybody knows about this stuff and we're all talking about it, we're not going to be able to change anything, and it really needs to be fixed. So, you know, I applaud your passion, and I think that, you know, together we can fuel that into something really hopefully positive for the new normal that everybody keeps talking about. I really truly hope that this is one of the areas that people, I hope, are experiencing very personally right now, with not being able to find certain ingredients, not being able to find canning jars, you know, also returning to all these things like making bread and home cooking, and seeing hopefully the change. Like, you drive down a street in Sacramento right now, you can physically see the poverty increasing, the number of tents that are beginning to line the sidewalks, the number of businesses that are shuttered. You know, there is a physical manifestation.
I see it every day as well. It's been a progression. I'm actually live in the area over where, you know, your project is working. Okay, so
Yep.
yeah, so absolutely, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm grateful for folks tuning in to learn more, because we need everybody we can get.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can see why I'm bringing this person on. It's just like everything you were talking about. You were talking just plucking every little string in my heart, you know, and you're saying it much better than I ever could. I'm kind of this stream of consciousness guy.
That's just because I read all these books all the time.
Look at you. Yeah, you're just, yeah. Pretty darn awesome. I should let you know, even though I'm going to be, you know, showering you with praise, I'm also going to be asking some of those hard hitting questions that all
Great, let's do it.
Have come to expect from my Between Two Stoves. Okay,
let's
so
do it.
Young lady,
you get hard. Let's do it.
Okay, so we're going to start out, and this is kind of my question for everybody during the new normal, like you call it. I mean, what was the mission and kind of activities that you and Food Literacy Center were into before Corona shifted the world into neutral and set the parking brake?
Yeah, so pre-COVID times, Food Literacy was going into schools and working with elementary kids in Title I schools, so the poor schools in South Sacramento. And we were going into after school programs teaching cooking and nutrition, because our ultimate goal is to inspire kids to eat their vegetables. And the reason that we want to do this is an important one. And the reason we target low income schools is an important one. And that is, we're trying to prevent diet related disease. And right now, Americans are beginning for the first time to truly grasp this concept of prevention, right? We are staying at home so that we can prevent COVID from ever happening. We are inspiring kids to eat their vegetables so that we can prevent these diet-related diseases from ever happening. And these two go hand in hand, because right now, COVID is affecting folks with diet-related disease the hardest. They're the folks who are ending up in emergency rooms and are ending up with complications due to COVID. So these diet-related diseases that affect 50% of Americans are a real problem that are manifesting themselves right now in the worst possible of ways. And we knew they already were having an impact and taking a toll on specifically Black and brown, low income communities. And while they do affect 50% of Americans, that 50% is disproportionately skewed toward the portion of our community that lives in poverty. So
exactly the community that you're reaching out to with your organization, Food Literacy Center, right?
Absolutely.
So I am with you all the way. I saw a social media post that you put out there about this very thing, and it's something that I've been reading as well, about how, our dietary health outcomes are so bad in the first place that when COVID struck America, it was taking us out at 3 times the rate of anybody else, because we were already in such bad health. So it just makes so much sense. And that's why I'm able to teach this stuff. It's just so easy and basic common sense stuff. And that idea of, comparing it to sheltering in place, to avoid a virus, a pandemic spreading. I mean, it just makes so much sense. I think if this virus caused pimples on the face, everybody would have taken charge day one, right? But it's invisible, right? And it's invisible for a couple of weeks before you get it and start taking it seriously. And I think that's working against, if I may say, the American psyche.
Correct, because in America, we don't believe in prevention. We believe that when we get sick, we'll take a drug and it will reverse those side effects and we'll just live with it. Instead of, guess what? We don't actually have to have that happen to us in the first place. And prevention is hard, because when it comes to being a nonprofit or being an academic study or, seeking those grants who want to see, ROI, return on investment, and want to see outcomes that are measurable. When you prevent something, there is no data, because you are measuring something that never happened. So exactly. When it comes to COVID, that's why our president doesn't want to test, because he believes that means it never happened. Yeah. No, that's what prevention is. Prevention equals it never happening, not testing.
We can never sound the trumpets about what didn't happen. We can never blow our horn about that. So, let me kind of move forward here. So, you mentioned you were a nonprofit. Now, I just want to say, it might be controversial, but I'm going to stand up and say it, that I think folks should be allowed to send you money to support this mission of food literacy, right? Who's with you? I think we should be able to send you guys money. Is there anybody out there could support you guys in some way, financial or otherwise?
We would love that. And you can do that right through our website at foodliteracycenter.org. There is an orange button at the top of that screen. Makes it real easy. And yes, we provide all of our services for free to the public. So it's really important to support us, because we can only do what the community supports. And that's what I've said from the beginning. We're a 9-year-old nonprofit right now. And I have always said, we can only do what the community wants us to do. And the way we know that the community is on board with our ideas is they usually send us a check and say, keep doing more of that. So that's how we've been able to grow and expand to reach more kids in more schools over the years. And we're very grateful because, you know, if we're doing something that the community doesn't want, like we've certainly tried programs, right, that just sort of everybody was silent when we said, hey, we did this cool thing, right? We thought it was exciting, but if the donations don't come in, that gives us feedback that, oh, maybe that's not the direction people want to take. Or if we run a program and, you know, kids don't show up or parents don't show up, it's like, okay, we need to do something different here. So everything that we do, you know, the community is our biggest audience to give us that thumbs up or that thumbs down of keep going or change course.
That idea of community-driven action, right? And
absolutely,
yeah, it's a beautiful thing. I got to say, you talk about, you know, you're serving low income, underserved communities, typically people in food deserts as well, right, where they can't really access food. Can you speak to like what a food desert is for those that don't really know, and that concept? I'm sure that's a burning issue.
Yeah, and so food deserts are one of something that is, there's an academic term called social determinants of health. So our health is determined by our zip codes. And the things that we have access to in our zip codes will determine our futures and will determine our today's health for us. So if you live in a zip code, for example, that the USDA, they have a threshold and they have a map online. You can go and look up where these food deserts are. If you live in a zip code that the USDA has deemed a food desert, it means that you don't have access to the same quality of fresh produce in your neighborhood that someone in another zip code does. So you might not be able to hop in your car and drive 2 minutes to get to a grocery store. You might be shopping for your groceries at a convenience store where there's, you know, half a shelf of, you know, packaged foods and, you know, a cooler that might have an apple or an orange or a prepared sandwich, but that's about
deviled head of lettuce or something and everything. Yeah.
And
yeah,
these are typically
your food at like liquor stores or something, you know, it's crazy. Sorry.
Correct. And to go a little more in depth of what these neighborhoods look like, you know, they are also typically in neighborhoods where the poverty threshold is high. There's a lot of poverty. There also tends to be a lack of transportation because of that poverty. And so you're also talking about these increased barriers to getting to these grocery stores of, you know, not only are you purchasing that food probably on EBT or what's called food stamps, you also probably are riding a bus. You know, I've trained groups of moms who talk about, you know, how they'll carpool when they see a sale at a grocery store in a different part of town, or to even just go to, you know, a farmer's market so that they can get good deals. And those are like rare outings. They're not the everyday shopping that you or I might do.
You know, and you know, speaking of everyday shopping, I think people have a hard time empathizing with the idea of having to get on a bus to go to the grocery store. And maybe you got a kid or 2 or 4, and you know, when you just mentioned that you did a training for mothers, and I think you said, right? And what kinds of things did you talk about to help folks manage getting like real food and to actually eat well in a neighborhood like this?
I think the first thing to understand is that this has been for generations a problem. We now have 2 generations of Americans that do not know how to cook with fresh ingredients. So we are a society that is very much, and that this is across demographics, that we've lost touch, and you've seen that, right? We have to show folks.
You're speaking my language. This is all I talk about is people don't cook anymore. You want to feel better. You want to, you know, be healthier, learn how to cook a little bit. Come on, learn how to cook real food. We are absolutely, yeah, you're singing the same song I do. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. So we have to start where people are at. And that oftentimes is, you know, a lot of packaged food. And so you don't go from packaged food to brown rice and kale salad overnight.
Right.
And so we tend to think about it in baby steps, right? Like we don't want to shame people for the way they currently eat, because this is what they have access to and it's what they know and it's what they're familiar with. And so we want to take some baby steps, and we see it as, rather than taking things away, what are the things that we can add, right? How can we add these fresh fruits and vegetables into your life, because they bring joy, they bring health. So let's
it's a
start
positive
there.
approach, if I may, folks. A
Absolutely.
positive approach.
Absolutely. And so we start with asking them in advance of the training, what are your favorite go-to foods that you love to eat? Now we're going to take some of those and we're going to help you transform them. And so, you know, spaghetti is a really popular food that is everybody's go-to, right? But how many times have people stopped and made it from a can of tomatoes rather than that jar of ragu, which is probably filled with more sodium than you need and more sugar than you want? And so
Because that's what the man wants us to have.
exactly, right? Because there's an up price to that, right? The can of tomatoes is cheaper. So we start there. You know, let's show you how to make a marinara sauce from scratch. Now we're going to show you how to top that with a variety of awesome vegetables, whether it's beautiful fresh cherry tomatoes from the farmer's market, or it's sauteed zucchini and onion. We're gonna make these different flavor toppings available, right? And we're gonna make them fresh vegetables. And so, and we're gonna make an awesome, hearty, grainy garlic bread that goes beside it, that's slathered in olive oil instead of butter, right?
Keep talking.
So, right? So we're giving them flavor packed, delicious food that is just one notch away from maybe some of the ingredients that they're used to using. And we talk about why we made some of these switches, and then it's really fun to watch. And so and then we cook with the moms, and then we sit down and eat together. And it's really funny to watch them, because, you know, they're, you know, trash talking us like, oh, you're going to get me to eat this spaghetti without meatballs? Like, haha, good luck, you know. And then they taste them. And it was so hilarious. We had one mom, we had made like 2 giant trays of spaghetti. And one mom went in the kitchen, because we'd only put out the first tray. And she was like, I'm saving this. She covered it with foil. She was like, I'm taking that home. That's amazing. And she went out and told all the other moms. She was like, what we eat here is yours, but I'm taking that. It was really funny. So they do transformationally change.
I'm sorry. It's so hard here, the format here, but I know that look of a student having that epiphany of like, oh, I didn't think I was going to like this at all. And it's just like, wow, I really like this, you know, and it's just like, it gives you the feels, doesn't it? I mean, I just have this, it really does. And it's something that I see, you know, in my students as well. But
well, and because we've made it so hard, right? Like we make it, there's a lot of, if you think about food magazines, everything's just like billowing and fluffy and perfect, and, you know, and
the unattainable vision of beauty, right?
We've made everything, and Instagram, like, right? Look at the photos of even the way I plate my food now because of Instagram, right? Like my husband never receives an ugly plate of food, right? Like, I
feel like I am not up to the photography of Instagram. It just, my pictures never look good enough. I don't post, you don't see my post my food, I post my videos. That's all I ever do. But
what happens because of that, right? Like I've trained with photographers and food stylists to learn that stuff. But what does that do to my friends and family? They somehow think that I've mastered fancy cooking. No, I've mastered food photography and food styling. My cooking is as simple as can be. And so that's what we've created in our society, is this visual cue that makes others feel that they can't participate, right? My spaghetti will never look like that, so I must not be able to eat healthy. right?
Isn't this just, we need to stop doing this, people. Stop it. Stop it. Okay. It is just, we do it on so many levels that our self-image and it's like our plates of food have become self-image with Instagram, and it's just simple. You said the word a second ago. It needs, just keep it simple. Do you feel like recipes, like the fact that, what do you feel about recipes? I mean, do people need this, or recipes versus teaching cooking?
They need both. They need both. I have friends who can follow a recipe and they like to cook and they enjoy to cook. But even volunteers that will come into Food Literacy Center, but they're not comfortable experimenting. That's just sometimes a personality type, right? Like, let me follow those instructions.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's super fair.
Not market.
Yep. So I think you need both, right? You absolutely need both. When it comes to working with kids, we are absolutely teaching them both. And, a recipe is great because you won't be caught off guard halfway through a recipe without those ingredient lists or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think there's value in both.
I guess just that idea of you were kind of talking about it a little while ago about, hey, it's spaghetti, but we can switch it to vegetarian, this or that, right? And it's that, if you know those base techniques, the little ones, and we teach that, as a life skill, like we should teach in schools, wouldn't that, be a step along the way? I guess. I think we're saying the same things.
100%. Yep. You need both. And for adults who didn't get raised at the knee of a cook that taught them to experiment and to play and to use technique, they're going to need a recipe. And when you're first starting off, you have bigger opportunities. So I think you need a little bit of both.
You mentioned the baby steps, but I got to say, you bring up those people that didn't grow up cooking. I mean, I was absolutely, truly one of those. I was a feral child, one of those latchkey kids. And, hey, there was stuff in the cupboard that I could have eaten, but I didn't know what to do with it, right? And it's like, that's why you guys at Food Literacy Center, you and your staff, the superheroes down there, you fill this gigantic, food/love sized hole in my heart with what you guys do. I just love it. Okay. Can you talk about some of the other folks down there, some of your big players at all, and give them a shout out? Yeah,
we're a super small team. There are just 6 of us, and everybody does all the things. So we've got everybody's kind of an instructor. Like, when COVID first hit, every single one of us helped to put all of our curriculum online. Right now, we're all writing a book together, and everybody is contributing. So there are a lot of things that we do at Food Literacy Center that are all hands on deck. If we're creating a new recipe, maybe one day 2 of us are making it and everyone else is taste testing, and another day it might be 2 different team members who are cooking it and the rest tasting it. So, and right now, because we can't cook together, which is really hard, somebody might develop a recipe at their house, and then somebody else is making it for dinner with their families to test it. And so, yeah, everybody contributes, everybody helps to write our little lessons and activities. Everybody weighs in on, the direction that we're going to take. So it's not, everybody certainly has their role to play, but I would say that the big decisions and the creative decisions, we definitely, when we can, we make them as a team, because we, COVID times, if we weren't a unit before, we sure are now. COVID times have really challenged us, and everybody's been there for one another. So I have a really great team, and super grateful for them.
I was just going to say, you must have incredible buy-in with the whole mission, because everybody has input on it. It's all theirs. That's really awesome. Kudos to you for that. I was going to ask about, how the processed food industrial complex that we've been talking about is investing billions to make fast food attractive to kids at pretty early ages, like they did it to me when I was a kid, right? And they did it to you, and they did it to everybody. Okay. Do you guys have conversations with these tiny people that you're working with about that kind of thing?
I want to tell you about my favorite conversation. I was teaching our lesson on fats, and we talk about plant fats and animal fats and how our hearts really like plant fats. And one of the kids said to me, "Are there any fats that are made by man?" And I said, that is a really good question. And yes, there are. They're called trans fats, and you should really avoid eating those. They're not good for your body. And they said, well, then why do they make them? This was a group of 4th and 5th graders. So they said, why do they make them? I said, well, they help keep the food on the shelf for a very long time. And so that's helpful because it doesn't spoil quickly and it can help them sell more.
Money, yeah.
And they said, do they know that those are bad for us? And I said, yeah, they do. And they said, that's not fair.
That's your favorite conversation. It sounds like a bummer conversation to me.
It's my favorite conversation in that it demonstrates you cannot pull the wool over these kids' eyes.
That's what I was just going to say. I mean, can I just say, I've never worked with kids. This is a thing, okay? I've never been around them. I was like the youngest child in my family, so I never had young kids around me. I haven't traveled with them in social circles, okay? And so I went to one of your events. You might remember, I don't know if you remember, but I did, and I saw your crew in action in the schools, and they definitely have magical tricks for managing these ginormous rooms full of kiddos. And I wonder if somebody like me came down to volunteer, say, I'm not sure if you're still taking, are you guys still taking volunteers?
We are, but it's very limited because of social distancing, and we're largely doing stuff that's distribution based. So we just need like 2 people standing there as cars come by. So it's very, very different from when we had, tons of volunteers with tons of kids in a busy, happy, joyful classroom. We certainly miss that energy and that vibrance, but yeah.
So for now, just send money.
I mean, it helps a lot right now. Yeah.
but I was wondering, let's say I am a volunteer. I come down there and it's like, what tips do you have to give me to help me manage a room full of tiny humans?
Yeah, so it's called classroom management, and
I want to put a spin on that.
with kids, what I found when I first started teaching is that you're just constantly giving them instructions that in a way that you would never talk to adults. Like, I need you to sit here, and I need you to sit on your bottom, because they'll be like, okay, I'll sit here, and so, I need you to sit on your bottom. I need you to put your hands in. So you're just constantly sort of telling them what to do with themselves, because
step one is like preempt situations by like giving exact directions.
Yes. Yeah.
I love it. Okay. Yeah. What's next?
And then we do things called attention getters. So I say fruit, you say veggie. Fruit. Play along here.
Oh, I'm sorry. But this is one that I saw them using, definitely, and I was like, oh my gosh, these guys are onto something. I wonder.
Yeah, and so we tell them at the start of the program, when I say fruit, you say veggie, and when we do that, what it means is I want your attention. I need eyes facing forward. I need mouth zipped, and I need your focus on me. And so when things start to get a little bit rowdy, the instructor will say fruits, veggie. And then eventually the kids will hear them shouting fruits and go veggies, and then the whole classroom will hear people saying veggies, and then they'll sit quietly. So
I was always one of the slower kids to catch on. Potatoes.
You just have to do weird things like that, right? Like, you wouldn't interrupt. I mean, maybe I'll start interrupting this conversation by yelling fruits.
It'll get my attention. Hey, what do you mean?
Yeah. So you just have to do weird things with big groups of kids that you wouldn't do with like a normal conversation.
Well, it's okay. So I'm kind of hearing a conflicting message here, if I may, because earlier we were talking about we can talk to them like adults, but then again, we got to manage it differently. And this is what I'm
Um,
afraid of, because I'll tell you what my fear is with the children. I saw, what was it, Star Wars Empire Strikes Back or whatever, with the Ewoks. Now they looked all cute, okay, but the minute you turn your back, you're getting served for dinner, and that's what I worry about. The minute I turn my back, they got me.
oh, I mean, the thing about that conversation about fats, I don't feel like adults get there that quickly. Kids have, they haven't, they're like this stripped away version of adults who see things for what they are very clearly. You know, we have all this stuff that we filter through thoughts and, you know, overthinking thoughts, right? And they don't have that overthinking yet. So, so yes, you can have very real and clear conversations with them. They're not going to understand all the nuance that an adult will, but they will see clearly to the finish line. Yeah.
I need to learn more about these things that we call kids. I just do.
I think you're underestimating yourself, because I think that you might still be a big kid like I am.
I still worry that, you know, the adults will leave the room and we'll all be under the kitchen cabinet mixing Clorox and other chemicals, and and I'll be listening to them. I'll be like, oh, okay, well, let's see what that, you don't want me to.
But that's why I enjoy being with kids, is, you know, I never stopped being one myself. And so I really enjoy the opportunity to be with my own people.
Responsible one too. You remember that responsibility. So what, you know, I mentioned how I didn't really grow up around food. Like, what kind of foods did you grow up around?
I was super lucky. I didn't even really realize it until I went off to college. So I grew up in rural Illinois in a food desert. We had to, for our main groceries, we had to cross the Mississippi River and go to Iowa. So it was an event, you know, we didn't go every weekend. And my parents had a garden, and I grew up with my parents canning tomatoes. So whenever I made anything that required tomato sauce, I was getting it from a spidery shelf in the basement, and I never knew until I went to college and I like saw the aisle of tomato products, and I was like, what are all these different deals on the shelf here? And then I was disappointed with them.
Did you go to college in the big city then?
Yeah, I did leave my
so
village.
It was this sticker shock, I guess, or whatever you want to call it.
It was just, you know, I began to realize how fortunate I was to have grown up. My aunt and uncle owned a bakery. So there was a lot of scratch cooking, a lot of baking. We had this beautiful garden, and I didn't realize my parents grew that garden so that we could have fresh fruits and vegetables, which of course, as a kid, I pretended to not like, but I have these visceral memories of things like butter lettuce. So I know that I ate them, even though I pretended.
Can I jump in? What was the produce like there compared to where we live? Because I always feel like they don't have the produce we have.
Yeah, and I'll let me talk about that. So,
guys, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's great. So when I left Illinois from college, and I came out here, and went to our first when I went to my first grocery store here, like one of my very first grocery store experiences, I was just like, you know, exploring the produce aisle forever, right? Like just staring and looking. And I remember seeing pluots, because we moved here, I believe it was in like August that my now husband and I moved here. And I remember seeing a pluot in the grocery store, and I remember staring at it and like intrigued, right? And the produce guy saw me, and he was like, oh, hey, do you have any questions for me? And I said, what is this? A mix between a plum and an apricot? What is this? Are they good? And he was like, oh, they're amazing. Do you want to taste one? I was like, I can taste one? And he's like, yeah, here you go. And I was like, what? So I remember that just from a grocery store. right? And then as I began to acclimate more and more to Sacramento, I discovered the farmers market. And, you know, I was working with lots of other peers my same age, yet they weren't talking about this food. They weren't like, I was blown away, and they were like, huh, oh, interesting. No, I didn't know we had that. Like completely nonplussed, didn't know, didn't care. And we're still eating the way I ate in college. And I was like, why are they eating this way? Don't they know what's here? They live here. Do they not know what the rest of us don't have? Because if you knew what we didn't, if you knew that you had this and no one else did, wouldn't you treasure it?
Oh my gosh, I know I do, but I know people don't understand. They just don't know. And that's why you do what you do. You're raising up the next generation to understand what food actually is, because I feel that's what has gotten lost. People would learn how to cook if they understood that they're not actually eating food. If they took a minute when they're eating to stop and really taste it.
That's when I started, my human curiosity got the better of me, where I was like, I don't understand how I'm so excited about this and no one else seems to notice it's there, or they don't notice why I'm excited, or what's happening. I didn't understand. Like, I remember taking my dad for the first time when he came to visit to the farmer's market, and he was like, why do you even have a garden? Right? Because that's why he gardened. I mean, of course it's joyful as well, but like, he was gardening because they don't have that. And so then I started reading books, because I was like, I am so confounded, right? And so I remember reading Jane Goodall's Harvest for Hope, and I was like, oh, everything's broken. This is why my friends don't know, don't care, right? And it just all blew up from there. I started a blog. I started writing for Edible Sacramento. I started Food Literacy Center. So,
you still have a blog, or you don't have time for a blog anymore?
It sits there. There's some tasty recipes, but yeah, I don't do anything.
What's it called?
It's called Awake at the Whisk.
Awake at the
Opposite from being asleep at the wheel.
I gotta say, you have a bit of fancy with your copy, if I may say. Are you the one that does all the writing with the veggie puns and everything? Are you the big nerd down there?
I am the nerd that writes the majority of the words that do come out of Food Literacy Center. That is the talent I bring to the table. I have lots of staff with lots of other, strong marketing skills and creative skills, and but yeah, wordsmithing is still the thing that lives on my plate.
Goofy skills. If anybody has seen anything out of Food Literacy Center, there's lots of fun veggie puns and all of that stuff.
But I'll tell you, we've had some super creative people over the years, like volunteers and stuff, who've come up with veggie puns that, like, we had an intern who came up with "thanks shallot," and I was like, oh, we use that one all the time now. Yeah, we've had some really punny people come through Food Literacy Center.
Well, I've just kind of been experimenting with that, and I got to say, I'm standing in awe of what you do in that arena.
Well, I appreciate your appreciation of our puns.
There she is, ladies and gentlemen, Amber Stott. There she is again. Let's see. I see that Food Literacy Month is coming up in September. Do you guys have any fun activities for all of these parents that are doing at-home instruction or all of that? Talk about Food Literacy Month.
Yeah, Food Literacy Month is my favorite. So in 2012, I worked with the California legislature to declare the month of September as Food Literacy Month throughout the state. And so
I love it.
Yeah, so we try to raise awareness, and the best way we know how is we throw a Veggie of the Year contest. And our kids, well, first the community will vote on 10 vegetables. They'll narrow it down to the top 5. Those 5
popularity contest. Sorry.
Exactly. So we'll take those top 5 vegetables. We will assign one each to a local chef. And then we will also box up those 5 vegetables because of COVID times. And we will send those vegetables home with our kids. Normally the chefs would cook a dish to let the kids taste. We can't do that this year. So the chefs will be doing a cooking demo once a week with each veggie contestant on our website, on our channels. And then the kids will vote. And then we'll also simultaneously be running a fundraising campaign. So there's 3 ways to win. There's the Chef's Award for top dish. There's the People's Choice, which they vote for with their dollars. And then there's the Veggie of the Year itself, which the kids vote for their very favorite vegetable. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Let's see. Now you have a cooking school / garden that is slated for opening, or has been slated for opening. Can you tell us a little about that?
Yeah, we're super celery excited. We are building a cooking school with the school district. They're actually building it. It's their building. They own it. It's their land. We have been selected as the nonprofit partner. So we will be the operator of this space. And essentially what that means is we're going to show up and we're going to run a lot of programs, again, for free. We won't be charging the school district. So we're going to run school education for the kids at the campus where it's being built, which is Leotata Floyd Elementary. So we're going to be running cooking classes and gardening classes during their school day. And then we'll also be doing parent, like mommy and me cooking classes, so that parents can learn to cook with their kids as a family.
Oh,
we're going to be doing other types of community programs. We're going to open the space up on certain days and let people come and enjoy it as a park space. You know, we'll have pizza night where we're making pizzas on our outdoor pizza oven. So there's going to be all kinds of fun ways. We're going to do school field trips. So yeah, endless opportunities to get folks cooking and growing.
That's what I wanted to ask about, is like, so different schools will be able to kind of rotate kids over there to kind of get the experience, right?
And then we will continue to do what we do during non-COVID times, which is go into schools throughout the district during their after-school programs and deliver our cooking and nutrition classes. So we'll be hopefully just ramping up and doing a lot more of what we've been doing, but at a different scale.
We should mention that we had some breaking news during this interview that yes, you can send money to Food Literacy Center to do all of this super cool stuff that you guys do. I am just busting. I'm busting over here. So great, you guys. I love it. Let's see. I was going to ask about like more tips or more like it seems like parents have their kids at home. They've got the in-home learning and everything, and they're looking for resources. I mean, you seem like you would be a good resource for resources. Okay, so do you have any resources for people that are just at home, like on your food literacy side, anything like that?
Absolutely. When COVID first hit, we put all of our curriculum, which up to that point had been proprietary, we put it all online. And so all of our recipes, all of our little science experiments and activities, we made those available for free online. And then once a week, we continue to do a Food Literacy Friday farmers market fresh recipe. So we're doing live cooking demos of things like corn is really popular. Let's make an elote salad. This week we're doing cucumbers and we're making a cucumber salad. We're going to talk about the different types of cucumbers you can find at our farmers markets right now. So we're doing these really quick, easy, low budget recipes. And yeah, so those are the kinds of things. And then, you know, we're always on our social media channels sharing out like reading lists and stuff like that.
So these resources, again, they can just go right to your website, foodliteracycenter.org, right?
They can donate on their way to the curriculum.
All the way, all there, right? So if you're sitting at home and you're bored, hey, get the kids cooking and maybe do a little cooking yourself. Do you have some of the mother and kid cooking classes on there at all?
No, we just have the recipes and the demos, but certainly we hope that families are cooking them together. And our recipes have instructions for both. They have instructions for adults and instructions for kids.
I think that's just awesome, getting the mom and the kid, mom or dad, right? Exactly. And the kids to cook along with each other. It's like, this is what I'm talking about, and you are too.
Well, and that was the recommendation of a mom who said, hey, when you open that cooking school, would we be able to have a cooking class with our kids? And I was like, heck yeah, we love that idea.
That is so awesome, man. It just proves that you're cool. People want to hang out with you. and learn stuff. That is awesome. Now I mentioned I first saw you, didn't meet you, but first saw you at a Sacramento Film Festival and Arts. Are there any, I know you were kind of involved with that. Can you kind of speak with that? And then, you know, are there any plans for like doing virtual events for that moving forward or?
Yeah, so every spring we run the Sacramento Food Film Festival, and that was founded by Catherine Enfield, and then we used to be the beneficiary, and as the festival grew, we became the owners of it. And so we will definitely be doing that for spring, and it will be virtual for 2021. We don't quite know yet how that's going to roll out, but we're really excited to do that. And then we're also going to be a new thing that we are launching, that we came up with this idea as we were talking about what are we going to do for the Food Film Festival next year. One of our most popular recipes with our kids is popcorn, and we make different seasonings that we have the kids put on the popcorn, and one of the most popular is ranch. And so we call up our friends at All Spicery, and we asked if they would want to do a product line together. So they're going to be very soon launching our ranch popcorn seasoning for purchase. And so part of those proceeds will benefit Food Literacy Center every time you buy a jar of that seasoning mix. So we hope that folks will support All Spicery and are thereby supporting us, and then also enjoy this awesome recipe that our kids love making in the classroom. It's a great healthy snack.
I love it. You are just, this is why they call her the food genius, people. This is it. Okay. I love it. Just all of these, you know, interrelationships coming together. It's just beautiful stuff. It's celebrating the entire town, our little local food chain. I gotta say, I've been watching the popcorn videos. I celebrate the entire catalog. Okay. It's beautiful stuff.
It is really good.
Have you, I watch you, I see your stuff out on social media. For some reason, I get Amber Stott in my feed, you know, they figure that out down at
Facebook.
Yeah, they figure that out at Facebook headquarters, I guess, right? Now, I was wondering, you know, can you talk about any global panel events that you've done lately? I was specifically talking about future of nutrition, and I wanted to ask you if you would talk, you know, let us all in on what is the future of nutrition. I bet I can guess.
Yeah, we were on Saturday, bright and early. It was late evening in India, but I was definitely on a panel, and we're actually going to be doing more with that group, Prana, and with wellness, with that particular group that ran the, right now it's escaping me, but
it was a big long name. So.
Yeah, I'm just having a moment, but we're going to actually do more with them. I'm actually right now developing an Indian style recipe with pluots, because plums are in season in India right now, and they are quite popular. And I happen to have a pluot tree, and because of that first memory I had when I first moved here to California, I now love pluots. So I have a tree. I'm going to be making a recipe. And then we're going to share that live with that audience again. But yeah, in having conversations with this group, you know, they absolutely share our values of, you know, what's good for you is good for the planet. And we have to be thinking long-term about the future of our food, about the future of our planet. And, you know, it's not just about health. It's health justice. It's social justice, it's environmental justice. All of these issues are very much wrapped up in equity. And so part of these conversations that we're having is, you know, how can we get people to eat more plants? And, you know, again, for me and for Food Literacy Center, that is about adding joy. When you feel healthy, you feel great, you know, so it's about adding joy, and then also think of all these other benefits. You're making the planet happy, you're making your body happy. So yeah, we'll be doing more with that group and talking about the importance of eating plants, because unfortunately our Western diet, our American food companies, you know, they have globalized. And so now we have globalized obesity, and we have globalized chronic disease due to poor diet. So it is really critical that we work together as an international community to undo some of this harm and remind people about the deliciousness of these home cooked, very basic foods that we can make on a low budget across the world that will help our hearts and our bodies.
It makes me hopeful that we can, I guess, move backwards to traditional foods rather than and kind of see past the processed foods that are offered to us every day. And it's the thing I like to say, everybody that's out there listening, none of this is rocket science, is it? I mean, no. It's all very simple concepts. We're talking about going back the way people used to eat, not trying to figure out new ways to eat. And
you know, and the thing that we don't have to go backwards on is technology. There are so many things that make it easy and quick for us. And it's okay to use shortcuts. Like, you do not have to like ferment your own yeast and have a sourdough starter in your fridge, right? Like, get the instant dry yeast and make it easy on yourself. There are certainly things we can do, right? It's great to know those ways of cooking. But, you know, I think when it comes to anything about our health, what is our biggest barrier that we hear over and over again? And it's a perceived barrier, and it's time, right? And so if we can help people understand how quick and easy these things are, that really you could do it in the same amount of time as you could hop in your car and go grab pickup, you know, but you do have to know how to do it, because the first time you do it, yeah, it's going to take a little while, but the more you do it, the quicker you will become.
One thing, just to add to that, another way to look at it is, hey, maybe a little longer day on one day a week where you can bang out a couple of dishes that you can eat for the rest of the week. You'll definitely save time having to jump in the car and go to restaurants and, oh, where are we going to eat? And, oh, Billy doesn't want this or whatever. None of those conversations happen. It's like, hey, we got this, you know, and it's actual food. It's real food, and we prepared it.
Well, and I eat my share of burritos. Right? It's not like we're not eating foods like that, but my burritos are kind of a salad between two burrito shells with some melted cheese and some beans, right? Because I'm making my burritos very differently than I would get them in a restaurant because of the way I know, like, there's a couple things. One, especially here in Sacramento, we don't have to do anything to our fruits and vegetables. Our farmers know what they are doing, and every fruit and vegetable tastes great right off the farm stand and popped in your mouth. So we have to do.
I'm amazed we don't have more raw restaurants in town, or we didn't.
And it's not necessarily about the philosophy of eating raw. It's about time. There's so little we have to do to it to make it delicious. It's already delicious. So when we're starting with ingredients like that, like, the amount of time from zero to delicious is nothing, right? And so so that's one piece. And then, you know, the other piece is not only that it's delicious, but that if you keep the amount of ingredients to a minimum and you know how to just throw a few simple things together, you know, you really can have that quick meal, and it doesn't take much.
Oh yeah. This is a point that I'm constantly throwing out there. Keep it simple, and I think we've said simple a few times today. Now I think I'm going to declare simple the word of the day. Okay?
Exactly. Like you, totally like you're saying. Like if a recipe calls for a cup of cooked rice, I'm going to make 3 cups. Because I know I'll end up throwing that into burritos or with eggs or what have you throughout the week, because I know I'm not going to want to take the time to cook the brown rice again because it takes 45 minutes, right? So I'm going to make a bunch of it and eat it throughout the week.
Yeah, a nice neutral grain. It doesn't have to be rice, a grain, and maybe a legume in your refrigerator. You can, a neutral one, you can flavor it the way you want all week long. Crazy.
Pot of beans a week.
Amber, right, at the clock, we're going to run out of time. I wanted to hit you up on 2 more questions if I can, okay? Okay, so first one is, you do a little bit of hiking, and Mrs. Nelson and I are big hiking aficionados.
Yeah.
New places. You got any good good digs I should check out?
Oh man, everywhere. Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing, that we have this gift in California of the amount of open space we have, even though it is not enough. We have seen that in COVID times, that people want to be outdoors right now. Like camping equipment is flying off shelves, hiking equipment, you can't find it. But really all it takes is a pair of good shoes that won't give you blisters. And, you know, I will say a couple of hiking etiquette for folks who are new to it. You know, I went on some hikes recently where every single person had a mask. It was tied around their neck, and as soon as they passed people, they put it on. And so that hiking etiquette just makes it safe so that nobody has to feel fearful, because you are going to pass people on these narrow trails. Also, music, leave it at home. Nature is for listening to the wind, to the trees, to the birds. They don't like your taste in music, so please leave that at home. And then just go, right? Like there's so many awesome trails out there. You really cannot go wrong right now.
Well, you heard it there, folks. She won't cut loose with any good spots. They must be secret.
No, also because my husband is the one who chooses them. I just show up.
Oh, you just show up. Okay. Let's see. And then last question of the day, and then I promise I'll let you go. I mentioned Amber Stott is a huge hero of mine. Okay. Who is Amber Stott's hero these days? Especially anybody local that's like blowing your mind these days?
Dr. Nadine Harris Burke, our Surgeon General. She is just someone that I greatly admire. I have been really impressed with Newsom's pick. I've read her book now. Like anytime she gives a talk, my whole entire staff are downloading it and talking about it. You know, what she has done in her research around ACEs and early childhood traumas, and understanding their connection to later chronic disease in adulthood, and paying very close attention and putting resources to training people and making sure that the public understand what these early traumas are. You know, food insecurity is a form of childhood trauma. Imagine not waking up every day and knowing where your next meal will come from, especially while school is out. So these are really critical issues that she is really opening the door on. And I think her work, you know, and through COVID, I think her responses of, you know, continue to maintain great nutrition because it's going to help with your stress. And, you know, she just continues to have an eye on the topical issues that really matter. And I feel like she's put together a really important team of folks that are doing a great job. So, and it's our first ever Surgeon General. We've never had one before.
Oh, I did not realize that. Was she in appointment just because of COVID?
No, they had selected her prior. And so, yeah, we're very fortunate in California to have, not every state even has a Surgeon General. So.
Wow. Amber, it's about that time. I know you're super, super busy. Thanks so much for joining me. I just want to say some heroes wear green aprons instead of capes.
Great to speak with you, Dave. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I am so glad you showed up. That was a fun conversation, I gotta say, okay? For those of you, you can take off if you want. I'm just gonna give a little shout out for those of you who are interested. On Monday at 4 o'clock, I've got another Quarantine Kitchen Happy Hour with Ms. Carissa Jones. That's Sacramento County Office of Education's Teacher of the Year right there, okay? And she's gonna be coming at you with Turbo Pickle 2.0. It's gonna be quite the show. Last week we did ferments, and this week we're gonna be doing quick pickles. That's what I'm talking about with turbo pickles, okay? And then on Thursday, on another Between Two Stoves, we're going to have the return of the mighty Eric Veldman Miller. Sorry, I messed up the name there, but he's just too big to just say it all in one mouthful, okay? We're going to have a meet and greet in Sacramento's tiny little butcher shop that's got a whole lot of heart, okay? That is all for now. I just want to remember that it is vital that you don't forget that the party is always in the kitchen. Thanks, Amber Stott, for hanging out with me. I loved it, and I just got to get over it. I'm all for cleanse.
Thanks for having me, Dave. Have a good evening.
We'll see you around
town.
Eat those
vegetables.
Oh, yeah. Eat your veggies, people.
Good
Awesome.
night.